chat didn't work.
All right. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, Leadership Pivot with Mary Kelly. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Dan Hendy. I'm the Education Manager with the Pennsylvania Rec and Park Society. Before we get started, I thought I'd mention a few housekeeping points. First off, this webinar is being recorded. Second off, participants will have the ability to talk during this event. However, we ask that you remain muted at any other time to cut down on the distractions. In addition to being online, you can submit questions or comments in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. We will either address them during the webinar or at the end. In a few days, you'll receive a link to the recorded webinar via an email. This webinar has been approved for 0.1 CEUs or 1 contact hour. The chat box and the final slide will have the link to the quiz and instructions. Make sure you take the quiz immediately following the presentation. And now a little bit about us. As many of you know, the Pennsylvania Rec and Park Society is the principal statewide association providing professional development, advocacy, and resources for those working and volunteering in the Parks and Rec field. We provide our members with industry news, research, trends, and technical assistance. And we're really glad you're here today because I think we got a special webinar. And I'd like to introduce her now. Mary Kelly has been a featured keynote speaker for many conferences and events. She is a leadership development expert and corporate strategist who can interpret data that leaders use to make the important decisions. Cited in Entrepreneur, Success, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and by over 500 TV and radio stations, Mary translates theory into action. She was one of the first women to graduate from the Naval Academy and served 21 years as a commissioned officer on active duty in the Navy. Some of her favorite jobs include being an intelligence officer, counterterrorism officer, a chief of police, and an HR director. She was also a part of the team in charge of Pearl Harbor during 9/11, I believe, which was an interesting story. Mary holds a PhD in economics and was a military professor at the Naval Academy and a civilian professor at Air Force. She's the author of over 13 books on leadership and business, including Master Your World, 360 Degrees of Leadership, Stop the Barking, and Why Leaders Fail. You can also visit her website at mary@productiveleaders.com, and we'll have that link later on in the program. On a side note, Mary is an animal lover, and she has graciously asked that in lieu of payment for this webinar that a donation be made to the Dallas Street Dog Advocates, and I thought that was wonderful. It's a nonprofit run by a friend that leads in the efforts to find, care for, and place in good homes dogs and other pets that have been left to fend for themselves in the streets. So that's really something as a dog owner and lover, kudos to you, Mary. And now I'll leave it to you.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, everyone, and let's get to it. I've got a lot of resources for you today, and we're going to talk about a few things that hopefully will help you migrate into this world of pivoting. So we are going to pivot, and I'm going to share my screen so that you can see everything that I can that I am seeing right now, and let's make this work as quickly as possible. So there we are. All right, and I am double checking this on my screen. I've got a dual screen here, and that one doesn't seem to be working, so we're going to go to this other screen, which is perfectly great. Oh, there we go. All right, I am a contingency planner from the word go, like many of you, and so what I do is I have 2 computers set up. This is my super secret thing that I do, just so you know, and what I do is I always have 2 different systems operating at one time, just in case. So like now, when I did not want to show the screen. All right, so we are back, and we are ready to start this. So let's talk a little bit about pivoting. Pivoting right now is all about helping your people do what they need to do in a time of crisis. So we've all had to change, we've all had to adapt, we have all had to alter, reset, all of those words that you see on that screen, we are having to shift. And this is what this looks like. So when we think about pivoting as leaders, we're helping our people focus on what's most important. And I have to share with you that last night I was on a client call with one of my organizations, and it was about a 3.5-hour client call. And they're just getting stuck in the weeds of things that don't matter. And it's frustrating to me to watch because I know where they need to go, but for them, they can't see it. And these are smart people. So this has nothing to do with intellect or education. It has everything to do with a crisis. Now, nobody could have predicted where we would be right now from a year ago. Nobody could have predicted that. Can you hear me okay? Oops. Just checking on that. All right. So nobody could have predicted that. Are you there?
A little bit of an echo, Mary.
Okay, hang on. Let's try that. Isn't that interesting? Oh, interesting. All right, hang on. Is that better? Is that better? Ooh, that's still an echo, isn't it? All right. Okay, I can't figure out why that sound is doing that. All right. Let's try this. I'm sorry about this, folks. Let me try to fix that. All right, how's that? Nope. That is still strange. Okay, how's that? Oh, that's still weird. I don't know what just changed, so you're getting that echo. And
Sounds cool.
does it sound okay to you now?
It's still an echo.
Okay, how's that?
That's better.
Sound
I
better
think.
now?
A little better, yes.
Okay, let me know if the sound is good now. That's so weird. Yes?
Yes,
Okay,
it's good.
All right, great. So this virus crisis that nobody could have predicted has, of course, created worldwide havoc. And this worldwide havoc has meant that we've had to step up and be even more resilient leaders. We have had to help people adapt quickly during times of crisis, chaos, challenge, and change. And we have had to help people pivot. And I know you're all sick of this word, as well as we are sick of the words safe and social distancing and wear your mask. I don't know about the rest of you, I'm just sick of all of that. But we as leaders have to take the right action at the right time to help people do what we know they need to do. Now, here's what's so interesting. Like many people in the very beginning of all this, most of us thought, hey, it's just not that bad. You know, it's just like the flu, we're gonna be fine, it won't really affect us. And this was in the very beginning stage, because in any stage of a crisis, and this is where I'm hoping this might help you. There are 6 stages of any crisis. I saw this in the first Gulf War, I saw this in the second Gulf War, I saw it during 9/11, that in the very beginning, people think, this can't be happening. It's a lot like the J curve of change, if you're familiar with that. The J curve of change says that we start with a denial phase, and then we get, and this is why things get worse before they get better. If you're ever gonna make a change, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Because we get into the denial phase, and then there's an active resistance phase, and then there's an exploration phase, and then there's the commitment phase. That's the standard J curve of change. In a crisis, in a serious crisis situation, we have the rejection phase, which starts off by saying, our brain dismisses it. Our brain doesn't think things are that bad. And this was certainly true for most of us in January, February, and then all of a sudden March hit and we had the recognition phase kick in. So this is where we said, you know, okay, we can do this. And about 40 to 50% of you either are working from home or you have teams working from home. And then you start to think the positive. Okay, I can save money on commuting. I can work in sweatpants or short pants or no pants. I have to work from home. I get to work from home. And then that for many people went to, I have to work from home. I get to work from home. I have to work from home. I have to work from home. I'll have more time with family. I have more time with family. How much more time with family? How much more family time can I take? Oh, dear God, more time with family. And for those of you who bought a tiny home in January, you may be regretting that decision right about now. So this is the recognition phase. And again, We're thinking, okay, we can work from home. The baby can be our new office manager. This will work out fine. And for many people, they thought, okay, I can do this in the short term, but I need to share with you that I was talking to a friend of mine who runs an association in Pennsylvania. And I called her about 3 weeks ago. I said, how are you doing? She said, I'm on the floor crying. This is not a woman who lies on the floor and cries. I said, what is going on? And she said, they just told us that we are not going to be going back to school until January. She said, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't do this anymore. So all of a sudden, even the most capable people are having challenges as they look at how we are going to shift into what needs to happen next. So then this reality kicks in. I need to step up my leadership, both at home and at work. My people need more reassurance from me, and they need it more often. So some of you are thinking, oh dear God, how many times do I have to tell people it's going to be okay? We're going to get through this. This will be fine. The answer is more than you think. Some people need better technology. Some people need all of a sudden new microphones. I've got somebody who has been teaching online for 10 years, but has never used a camera because, well, everything was asynchronous. There were no camera issues. So some people need better technology. Some family members are going to need more of your time. Just as a heads up, a poll that came out last week said that 1 in 4 people under the age of 25 have contemplated suicide during this time. That's scary to me because it tells me that we are not teaching resiliency as part of what we are doing. So quick aside on that, next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, I'm doing a totally free 25-minute program with a guy named Lee Ellis, Colonel Lee Ellis. He was a POW in Vietnam. He still looks about 50 years old. I don't know how he does that. But we are going to have a conversation on how to be a more resilient leader and how to lead resilient team members. Because people are not as resilient and they're not bouncing as well as a lot of us thought they should. So many people had to reconfigure their home, and all of a sudden we realized this not only could last for months, it is going to last for months, and it may be a long time before we can get people together. So now we say, okay, we've got this realization phase, we've reset up our office, we've reconfigured our stuff, we got a new computer, we got new microphones, we've got this. So this realization phase leads into this resolution phase. Okay, we're in this together. We can do this. Let's support each other. Now, here's what's so interesting. Many people go through the rejection, recognition, realization, and resolution phases every single day, sometimes before coffee. Because you wake up and all of a sudden you're like, it wasn't a bad dream. We're still in 2020, longest year ever. And many people are having their people stuck in these phases. So one of the things I want to encourage you to think about doing is don't just ask your people how they're doing and say, hey, how you doing? Because you're going to get the same answers that you would if you were walking around, hey, how you doing? You're going to get, just like a teenager, monosyllabic answers that tell you nothing. Good, great, fine. That's all you're going to get. They're not going to tell you. So I would encourage you to ask the question in a slightly different way. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being pretty darn terrible and 10 being absolutely fantastic, couldn't be better, my dog loves the fact that I'm home, how is your family doing? How are you doing with all the changes that have gone on in 2020? And if somebody says, I'm kind of at a 2, your leadership response is much different than if somebody says, I'm at a 10, everything is fantastic, my world is perfect. If you just say, how you doing? You're going to get good, great, fine. Doesn't tell you anything. As leaders, one of the things I'm having to just remind people very gently is that every single person needs a slightly different leadership. So one of the things you can also do, a good exercise for that, is ask your people, just say, hey, during this time of crisis, what 3 characteristics do you need from me at this time? Now, it's interesting because people will say, I need, everybody's going to have a different answer. And it's the same thing as if you ask somebody, what top 3, think of the best leader you've ever worked for, heard of, read about, studied, whatever. What are their top leadership characteristics? And somebody's going to say honesty, integrity, transparency. And other people are going to say strong vision, mission-oriented, goals. Whatever they say about those leaders tends to be the leadership characteristics they need the most, which means they need it from you. So that's just an exercise you can do with your people really quickly to help figure out what they need from you at this time. And a lot of times we make assumptions based on what we need instead of asking people what they need. So the new reality, this is where my leaders need to be operating. They need to be operating in the space of, I get it. It would be nice to be nostalgic for 2019, but we're never going back there. And I had a conversation with doctors yesterday, and they said, well, once things get back to normal, I'm like, you deal with this every single day. We are not going back to normal. Normal is never happening again. So this idea of reality has to set in, which means every single detail of every single thing we do will change. Bringing people together is going to be more difficult. How we bring people together is going to be more difficult. It's kind of like when you go to buy a new car. When you go to buy a new car, for example, you've got a choice of perhaps the different colors of the car, whether or not you get leather seats or cloth seats, whether or not you get a sunroof. Okay, great. But in the long run, building that car, every single detail is on the table. And that's where we are right now. Every single detail of what we do is on the table. So this is the new realignment. So think about your users, your customers, the people who enjoy your parks and rec facilities. What can we do to support them? How do we work cooperatively with our competition? And some people think competition as maybe YMCAs or gyms or things like that. Where can we improve our processes? How can we get people safely to enjoy our facilities? What do we need to be doing differently moving forward? And in many cases, it might be, hey, now we've got to make it more and more clear to our elected officials and our politicians that we are valuable, that people need our green space more than ever, that people need what it is we do and provide, that people need to be outside, that more and more families are being reported as having domestic violence, and there's frustration levels mounting, and kids need to be outside, but so do adults. So how do we convey that even though usage looks like it's down, we still need the funding in order to keep operating and moving into the future? We are more important than ever. So how does this change our leadership? Well, we're all leaders. We've all got to be looking at that as leaders. How does this change our organization's strategic planning in how we move forward? How can we equip our teams with the ability to manage and bounce with all of the changes? Be resilient. Where do we need to allocate our scarce resources? We always have scarce resources. If we always had all the money we wanted, all the people we wanted, everything we wanted, resources wouldn't be scarce. But all resources always have what's called a scarcity, which means we don't always get everything we want. I think that's a song. You don't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get the point. Okay, so where do we need to create and develop new things, new programs, new abilities? And many of you have done that with camps, with campgrounds, with playgrounds. How do we respond quickly to what our constituents and our citizens need? And how do we stay focused? Right now, there is a huge lack of focus. And again, a free resource for you, and I will send it to Dan and he can send that out. I had another client who said, my people just can't stay focused. They're so frustrated. I said, okay, really quickly, let me make 10 minutes of a program on how to stay focused in a distracted world. So I'll send that to Dan because we all need these resources right now. And then how do we position ourselves well for the future, not just with our own job, but how do we truly move forward with a spirit of giving and generosity and serving the people we live and work with? These circles are where my leaders need to be in the new reality and in the new realignment. So because of that, we have to look at how do we best lead people through a crisis. And this crisis is going to go on for probably another year. And the fear factor, in the very beginning, we couldn't get people to take it seriously. And now it's amazing to me that I've got people who say, I haven't left my house in 3 months and I don't want to. I'm like, okay, how long are you going to stay locked up in your house? Because the history of the world is all about humanity. And well, frankly, we as humans are bacteria petri dishes. We're kind of gross. I get that. And we can't ever make everything 100% safe. It's just not going to happen. So our job as leaders is to get people to take the right action at the right time with the right spirit every time. And what does that look like? So this is the pivot. So the P is the purpose. This is going to be part of your quiz. So P is the purpose. We need a purpose, but not only do we need a purpose, our people need a purpose. Without a purpose, they stay in bed, they get depressed, they don't bounce, and they think about themselves. In any crisis, people have the natural tendency to circle the wagons, become more myopic, and focus on themselves. Folks, that's why there was a toilet paper crisis, because people were so worried about themselves and their situation when they should have been worried about, well, how do I help other people? How do I get my family through this? We tend to get very, very myopic. With a strong enough purpose, and if we instill that sense of purpose with our teams, we are able to look beyond ourselves and help our people move forward. So a couple ways you can do this. And there's a handout in the resources. We only have an hour today, but you're getting a full handout. This actually has all 5 parts to it. But think about, this is an exercise you can do with your team. And think about what you can do. What do you most want to do that describe the work you do? Do you want to, provide certain facilities? Do you want to pacify certain people? How do you want to prosper? What do you need to be perceived as? All these fun P words. What is your purpose? What defines your purpose? And in the rest of this handout, it's a 5-page handout that goes through the entire pivot section. What does that look like? And how do you help your people wake up in the morning excited to get out of bed and serve your people? So I asked a group of, engineers. It was probably the wrong question. I said, so what gets you out of bed in the morning? The answers I got were, well, they're engineers. I was finished sleeping. The alarm went off. I had to go to the bathroom. And I was looking for this big exciting thing like NASA, we're going to send a space shuttle into space. And that wasn't what I got. So I had to be a little bit more careful and then ask different questions. So in crafting your vision for your department, your division, your park, whatever you are in charge of, even if it's just yourself, we have to know what our mission is as well as our vision. So the mission is what it is we do. So for example, the mission might be, we play baseball. The vision is we're going to the World Series. Okay, it could be the Little League World Series, which is held in your state. Congratulations, you, but probably not this year. But who do we serve now? And who do we want to serve in the future? So think about the really big picture. With a clearly understood mission, we can move into creating the vision. And I'm going to touch on this in the brainstorming part as well, but who do we serve now and who are we going to serve in the future? Because for a lot of people, it has shifted into who we actually serve. And what major changes are we going to see in the future? Now, folks, this is not specific just to the COVID crisis. This is always what is going to shift as we move into the future. Are people going to spend more time in parks, less time in parks? Are they going to spend more time playing sports? I need to share with you, I'm a Little League team coach. My husband and I were never able to have children, but I like children, and I think being outside is good for all of us. And I've been a coach for years and years and years. It's not that I'm that good of a ball player, but I'm good at the coaching part. Mostly I deal with the crying, the bleeding, the snacks, the uniform, well, the parents. That's really what I deal with, let's face it. And the whole point there is getting people outside, building community. And this is what you do. So how are all the changes coming down the pike affecting your purpose and affecting your people's purpose? And then we have to think really hard about, during the time of crisis, what do we want to be known for? What did we do right? What will our people remember that we did well? And then if there were no constraints, and this is always the question I ask people, if all of a sudden you had all the money you wanted, what would you do? If you had all the people you wanted, what would you do? And what would that look like? And that helps you kind of craft where it is you want to go. We need to coalesce people around this bigger place to be. So the I is who we influence and who we inspire. And this is on a day-to-day basis. Whether or not you realize it or not, you have the ability to influence and inspire other people. And maybe this looks like your strategic plan and you're moving things forward with your objectives and your initiatives and your KPIs. It is very easy to get stuck in that, but our job is to inspire people. Now, this takes us into the volatility stage of the V. We are on different spectrums in terms of volatility. And again, you've got to remember that your people might wake up and it could be a bad day. They could be on the very vulnerable side or the very victorious side. It all depends on where they are. And again, asking them the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing today? And again, if they say, well, a 3, I found out my kids aren't going back to school. I've got a 9th grader who's fine with that, a 6th grader who's probably okay, but I have no idea what to do with a kindergartner. And they decided they wanted a new puppy and a kitten. And oh, by the way, my in-laws are moving in with us because they can't move into assisted living. And I'm frankly having a real tough day. All of a sudden, you now have a different degree of how you respond. Now, this doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable for what it is they're responsible for doing. You do. But your approach might be different. You say, okay, so I know we've got some deadlines coming up. Is there anything you need from me to help you meet those deadlines? Again, you're not absolving them from the work. It's still their job. They still have to perform. You're still paying them. But what you can do is if they say, you know what, I don't know how to move forward past this obstacle. That's the kind of thing you're looking at. And then you can say, oh, you know what, Joe Bob can do that. And if Joe Bob does that would be a little bit easier. And that would get you past that obstacle. Or, hey, that funding thing that's been sitting on somebody's desk for 4 weeks, I desperately need some help on this. So is there anything you can do to help me get that budget pushed through? And that might be an issue. So again, we've got to respond in a way that works best for leaders. So for many people, we say, where are you on the spectrum? Give them a place to respond that is a safe place. Now, as Dan mentioned, I spent about 26 years on active duty in the Navy, and launching planes off carrier decks is dangerous work. So because of that, we from the bridge, we have to be able to see, do we have the right people in place at the right time doing the right thing? Because at any given moment, you know, those planes taking off, they could stall and go kerplunk and go into the ocean. That's a very bad day. Does it happen? Yes. And even on the left-hand side, what you don't see is about 12 feet below the carrier deck, the flight deck, there are these big nets, like cargo nets, the kind that some of you probably have in your playgrounds that people love to climb. That's fantastic. Well, we have them about 12 feet down because if it looks like the plane is sliding off the edge of the carrier deck, and it's happened enough times that we have cargo nets there, we all run for the cargo nets and we just dive off the side of the boat into the cargo nets. And that catches us because the carrier deck is a dangerous place to work. We've got to make sure we've got the right people in the right place doing the right job as a team to prevent the amount of volatility from being a problem. So how you can help your people, again, on the focus, this is what I'm sending to Dan, and we don't have time to go through this today, but just a couple things because a lot of people are working from home. If we're not focused on a carrier deck, people die. Right now, a lack of focus is a significant problem because of all the things people are having to deal with, and everything is taking longer. I posted on my Facebook page on Sunday that my big excitement for the weekend was I went to Walmart. Wow. And of course, like everybody else, I got to the door, I'm like, oh, forgot my mask, went back to the car, got the mask, then went back in. I mean, how many times have we all done that? We've all done it because it's just not a habit and routine yet. We're not, even though we've had 4 or 5 months to deal with this, it's not a habit and a routine. So we have to help people stay focused. And we know, by the way, that the average goldfish can focus for about 9 seconds, and the average human before COVID was about 8 seconds, and we know it's less now. So let's look at the opportunities. I realize that this crisis has killed people, that people's lives have been made more difficult, that some states have quarantined, like Hawaii is quarantined. The woman I call my mother-in-law lives in Hawaii, and she's had some illnesses, and it's very frustrating to think that even if I could get there, I couldn't leave her house. I can't take her to a medical appointment for 2 weeks of quarantine. So I am not in any way saying that this crisis has not caused a great deal of suffering and death, because it has. Many people have not gotten medical treatment that they need because it's been a problem. They can't get to medical facilities, that elective surgeries have been put on hold, and they will eventually come back. But many people are saying, you know what, I'm risking a deadly disease by getting my bunions taken care of. I'm just not gonna have bunion surgery. I'll put that off for another couple years. But in every crisis, there are opportunities, and there's especially opportunities for people who are great leaders to step up and do what we need you to do. So where are these buckets of opportunity? Well, first off, number one, people. With all of the people who have been furloughed, this is a great opportunity if you're looking to hire people to find great talent that before this, they weren't there. 6 months ago, my execs were worried about, they were just hiring bodies. They didn't even care where they were going to work. And now you can afford to be picky. It is now part of the employer's side for hiring. You can be picky. You can interview. I'm working with a firm and we advertised for a COO in Idaho and we got 90 applications in the first 24 hours. These people were not available 6 months ago. So this is a terrific time to be able to hire, train, develop, and promote the right people. Now is also a great opportunity to make sure that people are getting the right training. You've all had the experience I have where you call up a customer service line and you say, hey, I want to talk about this product. And the people on the other end of the phone are frankly surprised that they even sell that product. You've had that experience too. And all of a sudden we say, gosh, we need better training in this organization. Training has to be ideally interesting. It's got to be relevant. It should be helpful, and it should be of value to everyone participating. Now, it's also a great time to look hard at the technology you're using. Many organizations are looking hard at their websites, their user interaction points, what has to be simplified, what can be adapted, what can be automated. Right now is, again, a great time to look hard at what you don't need to be doing, what could be automated, what do you need to innovate, does something need to be created? For many people, they didn't have the ability to even do a teleconference before this, and now we all have this. So what does the process look like when people want to use our spaces? Do we make it easy? And if people are enjoying our spaces, are we capturing the fact that they are? Are we encouraging people actively to give us testimonials that are great? Hey, you know what? I finally got outside with my kids and it was such a great day. Thanks for keeping the parks open. Things like that. That is what people need to hear. And your elected officials and your governance folks and your bureaucrats need to hear that as well. And this leads into resources. For many folks, they are adjusting resource allocation. And this is, frankly, this is going to be difficult for certain parts of your state because it's a part of everybody's state. So where are those resources being realigned, reallocated, redesigned, repurposed, or retooled? And how do we justify what it is we do in a time of increasing budget cuts potentially? And how do we continue to show our value? So again, you can do that with testimonials. You can ask people on your Facebook page or your other social media, hey, send us pictures of you enjoying our parks. Be very careful about posting pictures of children. But if people want to give a great testimonial about they enjoyed what they were able to do in your campground, in your facilities, that would be fantastic. And then share those. I know a lot of us were brought up to be, well, fairly humble about what it is we're doing. We're like, oh gosh, thanks, shucks. You know, I'm so glad you had a great experience. No, now is not the time to be modest. You're going to have to fight for resources like everybody else, regardless of where you are. So send it out to everybody. Hey, got another great testimonial from this great family, or gosh, people are flocking in to use our facilities. We're so excited to welcome them, things like that. Now, in pivoting both your business world as well as your personal world, certain things, and this is again one of the handouts that you've got, and I will retype where those resources are a couple times so you're able to get that, because some of you are very busy, and again, you are homeschooling while you are participating in a webinar. But it's kiwilive.com, keyword dog. I rent space for document distribution. And the whole idea here is think about your life and your business, and your thinking has had to shift. So what is the most important aspect for you right now? In your brain, what has shifted? Where's your mindset shifted? Now, one of the other exercises that you can do with your team, and I do this with all of my execs at our strategic retreats that we're still doing, is I say, okay, give me a list of 10 things, write down right now, take 2 minutes. What's been better because of COVID? And it forces people to look optimistically for the opportunities. What has improved? And then we round robin around the table. And this is a fun exercise you can do with your team as well. What's gotten better because of COVID? So I'll just tell you, I'm still traveling. Planes have never been cleaner. I love that. Before, I don't think planes have been clean since, well, ever. this is kind of nice. And we're all willing to wipe everything down with all of the Clorox wipes. And we're all bringing our own Clorox wipes, and things are cleaner. Restaurants are cleaner. Certain things, gym equipment, cleaner. Should it have been clean before? Yeah. But some other things have changed too. What I heard from some of my folks was, because of COVID, I've had to be a better son to my aging parents. Because of COVID, I've had more time with my family, and I learned, wow, my kids are really funny because of COVID. So think about the 10 things that's better because of COVID. And then think about, what's your biggest concern? What's your biggest worry, both on your home side as well as your business side? And what do you need to focus on right now that's going to give you the best ROI? Because again, during times of stress and distraction, our focus tends to be a little bit scattered. And then again, acknowledging those distractions. And again, I'll send Dan that quick video. So short-term wise, what is your immediate short term for work as well as home? Long-term, where do you want to be in a year? So think about where we're going to be in 2021 in August. What does that look like? And then from your home side, where do we need to cut spending? On the business side, where do we need to cut spending? Where can we cut spending so that we can invest that money in other places? What do we need to start doing? I'll be the first one to tell you, everybody said, oh, you're going to have so much free time being home, not being on the road 20 days a month like I normally am. That hasn't happened. I have not learned Spanish. I have not become a better cook. Like, none of those things have happened. But now is a great time to eliminate certain things because maybe it's just not a priority. And I did look back at last year's projects, and some of those things I thought, you know what, those are no longer relevant. I don't have to worry about those anymore. And then we had to ask the question, and we did it as a team. And I asked my team the same question. I said, what do you need from me during this time of crisis? And every single person had a different answer. And then I had to ask my family members the same question. What do you need from me during this time of crisis? So this worksheet is in Kiwi Live. So there are specific opportunities. Where are they? And it's helpful to kind of brainstorm on what those look like. So this is the 5-minute brainstorming plan. It is in Kiwi Live, but I wanted to walk you through just a couple of these things you can do with your team to effectively brainstorm. The idea is that you set aside a short amount of time and then capture ideas quickly. If you're in charge of the team, please speak last, because if you speak first, everybody's going to do that bobblehead thing where they go, yes, boss, oh, that's a great idea. And people are not going to come up with their own ideas. And now is a time when a stupid idea 6 months ago could be a genius idea right now. So leaders speak last. We also have to make sure that we agree to be open and inclusive of all ideas, regardless how dumb, again, they sounded a year ago. Now we need to agree to be open-minded about the possibilities, the what ifs. And then we have to have a way to capture those ideas. There's a fun whiteboard exercise that you can do on Zoom that is sticky notes, where you can create 50 ideas in a certain amount of time. And it's amazing because when you first throw out a question, people just sit there, and then all of a sudden it's like a snowball effect and ideas start happening. And then when you're brainstorming, Post-it notes are great, doing electronically is great, throwing things in a chat is great, and we're going to do that in just a couple minutes. And then remember, specificity creates relevance. You don't want to say, well, what should we be doing better? That's way too broad a question. It's kind of the same question if I said, so name me everything green in the world. Well, you're all parks people, rec people, so you're thinking grass, trees, shrubberies, stoplights, and then we kind of stop. But if I said, name everything green inside your refrigerator, now it's pickles, pickle relish, cucumbers, lettuce, cabbage, old cheese, like funny things that would just pop up. And you would, because it's easier for people to think in terms of specificity. So ask questions that are focused on particular areas to get really relevant ideas. And then when people get really good ideas, capture those and think about whether or not they should happen. Again, those overly general questions are not as good as specific questions. Well, like what? How do we improve the face-to-face user experience when they show up? What does that look like? How do we make it easy for people? And I'm all about making it easy for people to do the right thing. So where I live, there's a community-based dog park. You know, I love dogs. So I take my dogs there. And of course, you know, as a dog mom, I always tell the people at the grocery store, please give me plastic bags because my plastic bags get reused with my dogs. You all know what I'm talking about. Paper bags, not so much. So I always have a stash of plastic bags in the car, which is more than what some of you wanted to know about me. But at my local dog park, because it's community-based and people were scared to go outside, all of a sudden they were short of little doggy bags, which meant what? You all know the answer. If we don't make it easy for people to do the right thing, a lot of times they don't do the right thing. If we want people to wipe things down, we have to provide the wipes. If we want people to use hand sanitizer, we have to provide it. Is this an increased cost? Yes. Does it improve the experience and the safety? Yes. So how do we then get to where we want to be? How do we improve these things? And you've all got your own ideas. And then when people go to check out what's available to them, do we make it easy on our website? Are we making it crystal clear about what they need to do, where they need to go, the hours, all of those things? I was trying to frequent some of the retail stores in my area during this time of increased shutdown and help businesses. And I showed up at one business and they said, oh, we're only taking people by appointment. I said, but your store is empty. And they said, well, we've been told only to take people by appointment. And I just shook my head. I'm like, you know what? On your website, it said, stop by anytime. Oh, that's old information. So they're not helping themselves. We have to make sure that the message we're providing is clear, that we're being consistent, that if we advertise something on our website, that that's what's happening in person, that we've got to make sure that it's easy to find information on the website. And then how do we improve the experience when our users call us? Are we still answering the phones? I have a very good friend of mine, and I was trying to give him a heads up about a job opportunity, and I got looped into his voicemail, and I tried for about 15 minutes to try to get a live body. It was sensitive information. I couldn't leave it on a recorded line, and I didn't know where it was going. And so finally, I sent him a Facebook message, and I said, dude, I said it. I said, look, I'm trying to give you a little help here, and you're making it impossible. I strongly recommend you try dialing your own number. When I did some consulting with the airlines, they said, you know, it's really easy for people to change stuff. I said, really? When was the last time you changed your own plane ticket? And the executives were like, well, you know, I mean, we've been told it's no, here, let me make a make-believe plane ticket, and then I want you to try to change it. Because for many of us, we know our own systems and we know how to make them work. But for somebody from the outside, it is not easy. And we need to make sure things right now are easy, again, for people to do the right thing. So then we have to ask ourselves, you know, what do our citizens need from us right now? And then what do our employees, our coworkers, and even, I'll say it, our bosses need from us right now? Because many people in charge never get that from their people. And I'm not saying be obsequious. Nobody likes obsequious. But asking your boss, hey, right now, is there something else I should be doing? Is there something else I can take off your plate? I've got some time. Everything, you know, these projects are kind of sitting until I get these numbers back. I've got time on Wednesday afternoon. What else should I be doing? Offer to help. What do people need from you right now? And then reach out and ask the question. And then think about, again, like this is in our vision plan, what do people need from Parks and Rec in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Literally, how is the landscape of Parks and Rec going to change in the future? So remember, folks, leaders today have to know more. We have to plan more. We have to be comfortable with chaos and change, and we have to make change easier for all of our people, our citizens, our users, our employees, and our bosses, and that's a little tough. So that gets us to the T. These are the tools, the training, and the technology that we might need in order to move forward. Because what we need from our people right now, we need innovative ideas. We need people to be adaptable. A lot of people are using the word agile. We need decisive action. And I need to share with you that for many senior leaders, making tough decisions to furlough people has been really tough. Some of you may be affected by that either externally or peripherally. It could be a family member, it could be someone in your neighborhood, but many people have been furloughed. And partly, some organizations made the decision to furlough people because they could make more money on unemployment than they could make just with reduced hours. But it's still a tough decision. And then the leaders are saying, well, do I reach out to these people who have been furloughed? The answer is yes. You can't make them work, but reaching out to them and letting them know you care is kind of a critical component. And then making tough decisions. When do we bring people back? When is it going to be safe? Worrying about lawsuits. That's a huge issue right now. Your people want decisive action, and we know that people do not do well in times of uncertainty. I'll share with you, I was a chief of police, and one of the best techniques I had was silence. I had done some counterterrorism work before being a chief of police, and all those things you see in like NCIS, yeah, we don't do any of that stuff. By the way, just so you know, we don't do any of that. And my best technique was walking in with my cup of coffee and sitting down, not across the table from somebody, but next to them, and just sipping my coffee, just being quiet. And then after a while, I'd look over and say, so, how's your day? And then they would tell me everything, because the uncertainty of their head, and they didn't know what I knew, was way worse than anything I actually knew. So for many people, the uncertainty factor of everything that's going on is more difficult than the reality. And this is why, again, in those early phases of pivot, where I said people need more reassurances from you, they need more reassurances from you. And we need more creative problem solving. And this means thinking about things that were impossible 6 months ago or things that we dismissed a year ago. They may be the right answers now. So let's look at that. So when we say leaders need to pivot, and we say, okay, strategically, how do we think really big thoughts? We have to look toward the needs and what we provide in the future, and then we have to craft those plans to move forward. I love contingency plans. I count on every single piece of technology breaking as soon as possible. And you know, at the very beginning of this program, I had exactly that, even though I've got 3 computers set up and sometimes the backups get in the way of other backups. But I love contingency plans. And I love the fact that we think big. So think about not having any resource constraints, but think about then what would be our top priority if we didn't have those constraints? What would we do? What problems would we solve? Many of us are involved in Parks and Rec for a couple different reasons. We love the outdoors. We love being able to help people get outdoors, but we also want to create healthier citizens. We want to provide programs that encourage people to come together as communities. So what does that look like? And this could be just that question could be its own brainstorming session. And then once you figure out what your goals are for the next year, what your people's goals are, then put it down in writing. And you've got this in Kiwi Live as well. And many people get frustrated, they get easily set back or stalled because all they see moving forward are the obstacles. So think about when you're thinking about your goal, put it in terms of, I will accomplish this by this date. And then think about the obstacles. So let's say you want a place of increased leadership somewhere in your organization. Maybe that involves getting another degree, an advanced degree, completing a certification. But the obstacles for that could be, I'm already short of time, I'm high on stress, I need a new computer, I'm trying to homeschool my kids, and I'm tired all the time. Okay, those are the obstacles. And they're very real concerns. But then you say, okay, but if I'm going to get to where I want to be, what can I do to overcome each one of those obstacles? And then brainstorm on the solutions. Here's the great thing about the habenula, the part of our brain that controls our actions and behavior. First, it does not like change. The habenula says, gosh, we are very happy if we can just stay where we are. Everything is good. These habits and routines that we've created over millennia as being humans, we really don't want to change. Has kept us alive. Good for us. But interestingly enough, once we decide to focus on solutions, the habenula gets a little excited about the change and it adapts quickly. So you say, I don't have enough time. Okay, well, can I hire a local teacher to help homeschool my kids in the afternoons so that I am more free to work on my school? Can I do a co-op with other parents in the neighborhood? Can I find 5 minutes a day where I do something that just de-stresses me? What can I do? And once we focus on the solutions, our brain kind of likes them. And then from the solutions, we create 5 action steps on ways to move forward. So again, what I've seen a lot of people get stuck on, especially during a crisis situation, is they get so focused on the obstacles that they never allow their brain to go into the solutions-based place, and then they never get to the action steps. And as a result, they are stalled, they are stuck, and they are mired in that myopic self-pity, self-focus, and they don't move forward. As leaders, we have to help our people move forward. And then we also have to know when we're being successful. And I got to tell you folks, I'm bad at this. I will share with you that in the Kiwi Live, you're also getting my daily productivity sheet. I do one of those each and every day of my life. I also have the weekly productivity sheet, which breaks down things in terms of minutes. So let's say I've been procrastinating on whatever, making a PowerPoint. I'm not very good at making PowerPoints. I don't really like doing it. I like the idea of a PowerPoint, but the actual implementation maybe is tough for me. But then what if I just say, revamp the PowerPoint, it will take you 12 minutes for just these 3 slides. Well, 12 minutes I can handle. My point there is, think about sharing the productivity sheets and the system with your people, because right now your people need quick wins. They need things they can cross off. And when we can cross things off, and an action step again is something we can cross off a list, people need that surge of dopamine or serotonin or whatever the happy chemical is in our brain that makes us happier. We need the quick wins. So your people who before this may have tackled an 8-hour project, no problem, now they need 8 one-hour projects. And this will help your people move forward. So I just want to remind you also that leaders have to move through the crisis, and they have to lead their people through the crisis. So of course there's an acronym for that too. It's called CLAMPER. It started with my doctors because they used clamps, and then I couldn't find a better word. So if you can come up with a better word, I would very much love to hear it. So clamper is to calm and reassure others. And again, when you think about this, in times of crisis, we teach our Navy SEAL teams and our Army Rangers, we say calm is contagious. Yes, you can be in a crisis situation, bullets can be flying, things can be blowing up, but people need your strategy, your presence, and your calm vision, because calm is contagious. The L, clamper, lead through the volatility. Sadly, some of my executives, people I coach, have just shut down themselves. That's not leading through a crisis. They've become myopic for their own situation. Maybe they've got a child who is not doing very well in the current climate. Maybe their spouse got furloughed or their partner got furloughed. But during tough times, it requires longer term thinking relationships, creative thinking, and innovative ideas. Lead through the volatility. Many of my leaders said, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. Leadership is always hard. There's always going to be a next crisis. Our job is to get our people through the crisis. And then the A is to adapt quickly to opportunities, to see the opportunities, and look for ways to improve processes, procedures, and people. So what I'd like to ask you to do, I know we've got just about 7 minutes left. I would like to ask you in the chat room, what has been an opportunity during COVID? What has been a positive of COVID? And this is that exercise that I asked you to think about with your team, but just put in something positive about the COVID situation, if you would please, in the chat. And if you do that, I will give you a prize. Everybody who does it will get a prize. So I'm just gonna wait. Remember I said I use silence to my advantage. I'm looking in the chat and I am waiting for your insightful comments. Fresh starts, very nice. Thank you, Charlotte. Building relationships with local churches, individuals in the food chain to feed children. Wonderful, Tanya. Thank you so much. Closer relationships with staff. Yes. An email. Okay, good. Hosting roundtables with members. Yes. Run programs where we've gotten your name out there. Nice. A chance to be more creative and think outside the box. Residents are loving all the new ideas. Boom. Untapped opportunities, yes. New programming, yes. Connecting with people I wouldn't normally get to do that, yes. Partnering with local businesses to expand ways to recreate things, nice. Creativity, beautiful. Starting new technology for customers, yes. Catching up on backlog maintenance. Oh, amen to that, Christy. You betcha. Virtual classes, yes. I love virtual classes. Fantastic. Good, good. Working with full-time staff and team while not having seasonal staff. Yeah, and you get to know them better. That's beautiful. New connections with people from other states. Love that. Yes, who knew that other states could be helpful? I know that there is a football rivalry with y'all and the Mountaineers in some parts of your state. But West Virginia, wild and wonderful, all that. Programming from a different lens, very nice, good. Good, I appreciate all of that. Thank you for jumping on in there and giving some, are you a Mountaineer, Dan? I did not know that. Okay, that got very lucky on my part. Okay, great. Oh, Tammy too, woohoo. I live with a Mountaineer, so there's that. And I love the Golly and the New, by the way, and I chase whitewater, so. There you go. So let's adapt quickly to opportunities. Let's look for ways to get better. And then we do have to manage that uncertainty, like I was saying. Okay, if you're not good at anything else as a leader, please be great at communication. Communication solves a lot of problems. And in the book called Why Leaders Fail and the 7 Prescriptions for Leadership Success that I co-authored with Peter Stark, we analyzed where leaders, really good people, simply fail. And so we taxonomized it, not to be confused with taxidermy, Dan. That's a whole nother thing that they do in West Virginia. But we taxonomized those things into 7 categories. And the number one solution for every single problem we came across was more communication, more valuable communication, and more often. And then promote collaborationship. And how many of you just listed collaborationships and deeper relationships as one of the good things that came out of this crisis? So work together with your suppliers, your competitors, your teams, your customers, your users, your employees, your full-time people, everybody. And then encourage that resiliency. Adversity builds resiliency, so help people see their next steps. It's kind of like confidence. People say, how do you coach people into confidence? And I say, you can't really coach them. Confidence comes from doing. At the Naval Academy, one of the things that we had to do is jump off this 10-meter tower into water. And that does not sound like a far way to go. And if you love jumping into water, this is very easy for you. But it's terrifying if you are a bad swimmer. And when you stand on the top of the tower, you don't see the top of the pool water. You see the bottom of the pool, which is another 30 feet down. So all of a sudden it looks like a lot further. And I remember so the first time you have to jump your plebe year, your first year. And I remember climbing up the rickety ladder up to the very top of this where you could touch the ceiling, and it was in an old building. I'm pretty sure somebody just dug a well and told us all to jump into it. And I was thinking, I'm not going to jump. I thought, there's no way. I'm scared. I don't know if I can do it. And I'm not a bad swimmer. And part of my brain goes, think about the people who are bad swimmers. They must be terrified. And then I looked across the platform, and the guy who was going to jump at the same time, you jump in pairs, and we're going to do this together. Well, I knew him. He was from my hometown. And all I could think of is, there is no way I am letting him go back and tell his mom that I chickened out. Jump. And all of a sudden you realize it's not that bad and you can do it. So this is what this crisis is doing for us. It is giving us the confidence to jump. So we have to encourage that resiliency. And then we have to respond correctly to changing information. Take the right decisive action based on the information you have at the time. One of my 3-star generals, one of my favorite bosses of all time, was an Army guy. And he said, give me the information you have right now, because we're never going to have perfect information. And especially true right now, when we would love to have perfect information, but the reality is we're never going to have perfect information. But we have to communicate what we have, what we know, as soon as possible. And then the free resources, kiwilive.com, keyword dog, always dog. Okay, sometimes I use another word like lead, but dog is way more fun and way easier to spell. And I am on LinkedIn and I'm needy, so please connect with me there. I think I put that in the chat. Also, in the Kiwi Live, you are getting the book, and this will all change on Thursday, so please grab it now. And if this is being sent out, and I know this recording is being used, goodness knows what kind of information they'll get at Kiwi Live, so feel free to share this stuff with your team now. You're getting the full book called Master Your World, 10 sort of dog-inspired, but mostly military-inspired leadership lessons to improve productivity, profit, and communication. And some of you say you don't have to worry about profit, but you do have to worry about your budgets. So that's in there too, so please go grab that. And please remember that we can see obstacles and we know what to do to solve the problems. And if we don't, we've got other people around us to ask. And there's always more free resources on my website. I started using my website as a cloud before there was a cloud. And this is where you all get the prize for participating. If you go to productiveleaders.com, there is the 52 leadership reminders. This is a 13-page PDF that, again, it's taxonomized. You can use with your team. And I will type in the Kiwi Live so you can use this with your team. And it's a great handout, so go grab that. There's always changing stuff there. This is the book I referenced. And then this is my latest book on succession planning made easy. And this is where those 52 business truths are. And this is how you get hold of me. And with that, I am at time. I'm going to put the Kiwi Live link back in again. And Dan, back to you, my friend. Thank you so, so much. And Dan, I think you're still muted.
Thanks for that, Mary. Okay. Thank you so much. What a bowl full of information that was. There was a lot of stuff there, Mary. Thank you very much. As I said, this webinar will be recorded, is being recorded. So we'll send everybody a link if you want to rewatch, maybe slow it down a little, get that information to soak in, because there was a lot there. And maybe we'll have time for a question or two if anyone does have one. Otherwise, if you look at the screen, I hope the screen is up, right? Thank you for attending. Of course, you can get in touch with Mary at productiveleaders.com. There's her, I don't think it's an 814 phone number, is it, Mary?
That is not my phone number, but I'd be interested to see who it is. So sorry about that. I put mine in the chat, and of course, I was trying to type quickly. So
Mary's phone. I know he's a fundraiser who did the last webinar. He's a good guy too. You might want to call him.
Cool,
anyway,
that's awesome.
So it has been approved for 1 CEU. Like I said, in the chat room, I published a link. If you want to just click on that, I'll take you right there. Answer number 3, I'm going to give it to you. It's all of the above. Because I don't think it was specifically mentioned, but we'll just go with all the above. And after passing that quiz, I'll send you a letter saying that you have gotten your credits. And also will be a link to the video. It'll be posted on YouTube for watching later. And we may make it available for CEU credits for those who didn't have the chance to attend today. Let's see, are there any